Hello and welcome to the Awaken Feminine podcast. I'm your host, Kaki Lee, a mindset coach and healer who's on a mission to share the love and wisdom of inspiring women from around the world who have gone through adversity and turned their pain into purpose. Today, I am excited to share the love and wisdom of feminine healing coach, founder of Healing with Hannah, and author of Entering the Divine One Breath at a Time, Hannah Stinson, who is joining me all the way from Edmonton, Alberta in Canada. Welcome, Hannah.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. And I want to say good evening, but I should say good morning to you and anyone wherever you are listening.
Yeah, a lot of times when I do solo things, I'm like, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, because
Wherever you are,
wherever you are.
I hope you're having a good day.
Yeah, or had a good day, whatever it is. Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. I'm just really excited to dive into your journey. But just before we dive in, I usually love to ask my guests, what is your definition of an awakened feminine?
Oh, I love this question. For me, and I think for a lot of women, it's being in touch with who we are and honoring myself. And that includes my boundaries or, where I want to be in my life in this moment. And usually that's just being and just accepting where I am in that moment. And that really is honoring my feminine for me, because I think many listeners can relate, and you too probably. I just lived in my masculine for so many years that at first being in touch with my feminine was so foreign. So now being able to sit and say and talk to you and the listeners, it's like, yes, just be and honor where you're at in that moment.
Yeah.
So it's always going to be different.
Yeah, beautiful. I just love that definition. And it is so true. I mean, I was in that masculine energy for many years in a very, corporate career. So it's the very push, push, push. And, you have to do this now, and not listening to your body at all until you get burnt out and have a breakdown. And then that's when you go, oh, I should listen to my body.
Yeah, maybe something's wrong.
Yes, I love that definition. Thank you for sharing that. So I'd love to dive into your journey now, Hannah. So can you unpack for us your journey to becoming the coach, the entrepreneur, and the author that you are now? So if you've got any experiences of spiritual awakenings or aha moments that led you down that path, please, please, please share that with us.
Oh my goodness. Well, for me, 110% was sobriety. So I, suffered a lot of trauma in my childhood. And when I experienced similar trauma again as an adolescent, I didn't know where to turn. And alcohol was there. So alcohol became a coping mechanism at 15 until I was 26. So that was 11 years of self-sabotage. Wow. And of not listening to my body. And as I got older and I got my period, I was diagnosed with endometriosis, and that took a whole other toll on my body. And again, alcohol was easy for coping with pain. And it became such a crutch, and it became my lifestyle. And I was a high functioning alcoholic. And it wasn't until I got sober that I looked back and thought, wow, I was an alcoholic. Because when you're in the moment, there's all these reasonings for it, right? Well, I experienced sexual abuse and no one's going to understand. So, I'll just numb that. But as time went on, I really just started to hate myself and my life. And I wasn't finding happiness anymore. And so I was in a very tumultuous relationship at the time. And I had this moment in a yoga class, and I attribute so much of my healing to yoga, was like, what am I doing here? Like, in this space on my yoga mat was the only time I felt happy. And that was a big wake-up call. I was living in Toronto. I was going to Ryerson. I was pursuing a Bachelor of Design, which was my dream at the time.
Yeah.
And I was presented with the opportunity in our final year to do a capstone project. So undergraduate thesis paper, but then a creative project to accompany it. And I decided to raise awareness on endometriosis through art and technology, because I was at this point where I didn't want to use alcohol to cope anymore. I understood that it wasn't helping. The more research I did about my condition being inflammatory and autoimmune, and alcohol is
Yeah.
just a big no-no. So I started to take my healing into my own hands. Unfortunately, after my breakup with my ex, I spiraled out of control, and my health and my addiction took an even worse turn. So I moved home to Winnipeg, and I thought my life was ending. I had built this life in Toronto, right, for almost 6 years, and I was well known in the fashion community, and things were really starting to excel for me.
Mm.
But no one saw behind the curtain what was
Yeah.
going on. And my mom came to visit, and she knew.
Yeah.
Moms always know.
Yeah.
So she said, we're packing you up and you're coming home.
Yeah.
And it was the first time I didn't work in 10 years. I took time for me, and I started to try to deal with the addiction on my own. And it was okay for a bit. And then I got back into yoga. And I had been practicing yoga, and I've been practicing yoga for over a decade, but on and off.
Yeah.
But it was end of 2017 where I was like, no, this is becoming such a beautiful practice, and I'm learning so much about my body. Like, there's got to be something here. It can't just be, I used to go to a hot yoga class for like a cardio workout, which is now having done my yoga teacher training, I know that's not the case. But, it's that Western masculine culture again of just being and going and not doing something for the pleasure of it.
Yeah.
Doing it because, oh, I did it. I went to a hot yoga class.
Yeah.
Like, I can say I did that.
Yeah.
So it was this weird unlearning, I guess. Like, I almost feel like I was just stripping away these layers. And so I took time off, and I didn't work for a bit. And then I got back into work actually at an addiction center. So at this point, I felt really good with where I was at. I was only drinking on the weekends and whatever you want to say, right? So I started teaching art, just volunteering at this addiction center. And then my girlfriend, who got me the volunteer gig, she said, we're actually like looking to hire part-time support workers. Are you willing to work overnights? Like, do you want to try this? And I thought, I'm not doing anything else.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess I'll do it. And Kaki, I fell in love. Like, it was like within 2 weeks, there's something told me I meant to be here. And I didn't know if it was I meant to work with women with addiction, or I meant to teach art, or what it was. It was just I was meant to be there.
Yeah.
And I started relearning all of these beautiful Indigenous teachings that I had the opportunity to learn when I was young. Thankfully, my dad has done immense work with the Indigenous communities for a long, long time. And so I was introduced to the teachings as a young girl, and I fell in love. But as you know, things happen in addiction, and we lose touch.
Yeah.
So my spirituality started to come back to me through my work.
Yeah.
There was the yoga aspect of it, of course, where I was learning more about myself. But I was relearning about the higher purpose and the creator, and that there's so much more than just this. And that to me was like a big warm hug, because it allowed me to realize that I'm more than just this body and what I've been going through and what I've put myself through.
Yeah.
And then it was January 1st of 2019. I can tell you the exact day that I woke up, and I swear it was my grandfather, who's passed, and he swore, and he just said, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Because he had passed about 2.5 years earlier, and we were really close, and I have a poppy tattoo for him. He was in the war, and yeah, he swore like a sailor. He was in the Navy, so he pretty much was a sailor. And it was that voice, and that was another reminder of that I have such a beautiful connection to spirit, and it was time to tap into that.
Yeah.
So that was my aha moment. And then from then on, it's been like it was a catalyst, I guess. The awakening process has just continued to flourish and blossom, because I don't have that. I don't like to say alcohol is poison, but for me, it was poison. So I don't have that blocking me and stopping me from living my fullest potential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
such a
that was so long and so loaded.
no, but such a beautiful story. And you've gone through so much, at such a young age, having you starting your alcohol addiction at, your teenage years to for, a decade. So it's a long time. And being able to then get, go to college and get your degree and become successful in a career that is definitely high functioning alcoholism. But can I ask you, what was it? What did people know you were addicted to alcohol, or were you one of those people that no one kind of knew because you were able to hide it so well?
It was the people who were very close to me who knew something was wrong.
Hmm.
My mom, the first time she said something, I was 18, she said, "I think you have a problem." And I just said to her, like, F you, basically. Like, I was at that point, I was 18 and I didn't care. I was living my life. I was really in the problem, so to speak, at that time, but also so was everyone else in my life.
Mm,
Binge drinking is such a huge cultural, societal norm, especially in North America. And I love my hometown, Winnipeg, but there was nothing to do ever.
mm,
So we just started drinking. We just drank
yeah,
and we did drugs. Like, it was just this, it just went hand in hand. It was almost like you'd meet someone who didn't, and it was like, what? And so my mom knew, and a couple of my really close friends had sat me down a couple times and said, "Hannah, we're worried about you."
mm,
And I kept saying, "No, like, well, I have a job, like, I went to
mm,
school, like, I'm fine, I don't have a problem, I can still do all these things." But when I was working from home, pouring a gin and tonic at 10 in the morning on a Tuesday is not, and continuing to drink that until you go to bed, it's not normal.
yeah,
That's not healthy. And addiction runs in my family, both sides.
yeah,
So it is, you are genetically predisposed to something like that.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so, yeah, it's almost for me, and this is almost like a whole other topic, but like breaking that generational trauma of addiction. I don't want to carry that. I don't want to bring that on to anyone else
yeah,
and carry that forward.
yeah. It's kind of breaking that karmic energy as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So, um, the other thing I wanted to ask you is when sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here. But when you were in your relationship with your ex-boyfriend, like I know a lot of women are probably in relationships where it's tumultuous, as you were talking about, toxic, or deep down they know that it's not for them, but they're still in there because of fear of being comfortable because that's what they know. So what made you decide to leave, or yeah, have that moment where you go, no, this isn't for me anymore?
Oh, yeah. I mean, he was an addict too.
Mm,
So there was a lot of me. I'm a nurturer.
mm,
I wanted to help him. I wanted to help him heal, and if anything, it just made me more, made my addiction a little bit more aggressive than it needed to be. But it was a moment where I was out with my friends, and of course I was drinking and stuff, and this guy was hitting on me, and part of me wanted to leave with him.
mm.
And I was in a relationship, and I am such a loyal, loving human. That's just who I am in my nature, in my, like, my star chart and my astrological chart,
Yeah,
you name it.
yeah.
And for me, that was a big red flag, that I was really willing to just go with this guy I didn't even know. And of course, when I was using, that was a common thing, unfortunately, but not when I was in a relationship,
Mm,
and in a relationship with someone for 3 years,
yeah,
and living with them.
yeah,
So it was a big wake up call, but we both were so unhappy, and we didn't know how to be supportive of each other. So it was a lot of jealousy. And so I went and I did it, but the breakup was so hard. My dad actually had to fly out, and I had to stay with him at an Airbnb because it was just, my ex really didn't take it well.
yeah.
And for my own safety, like, it
Mm,
just had to be that way. And it took a couple months of me really reminding him we're not together anymore.
Mm.
A lot of narcissistic tendencies, right? And so I was guilted for many months before I initiated the breakup, because
Yeah.
things were really, really not going well for a while.
Yeah.
But I was so used to being used and disrespected. I didn't know anything else. I thought that's what a relationship was.
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart to think that, and to know so many other women are experiencing that, because I'm in a healthy, loving relationship now. And I have to tell him sometimes, this is so foreign to me.
Yeah.
And he's so loving and amazing about it. But to think like it's foreign to be treated well.
Yes.
And
It's
that's something I think almost every woman could resonate with.
yeah. It is so strange how we feel about being treated well, because like yourself, I was in a very toxic relationship. I was quite young at that time. And when I found my husband, who's totally amazing, it was like, why are you treating me so well? Is there something wrong? Like, this doesn't feel right.
Right? I know. I'm like, are we in a fight? Did I do something? I don't know. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's
And,
like, are you not angry that I just did that? Because yeah, my ex was very what's the word? Explosive, like had anger
yes,
management issues. So
yes.
it was just like, oh, okay. Okay, it's actually normal. Like that
Yeah.
I'm not triggering anything in someone else.
Exactly. And having someone who's open to have the discussion, you
Yes.
know? I talk about it in my book, and even it wasn't until I started working as an addictions counselor, or I guess my capstone project, when I started talking about my endometriosis. But I was so used to not using my voice.
Mm,
I was so used to staying small and quiet and hidden, because that's what I thought everyone wanted me to do. And when I did speak up, I was just shamed or shunned, or made to feel ridiculous, right?
yeah.
So we just get so used to, we're like, okay, yeah, well, it's just easier for me to be quiet
Yeah.
and stay small, and not express my truth.
Yes.
And now sitting here being able to talk to you and like living my truth, it feels really amazing. And I just hope that everyone listening knows that like you can do that too.
Yeah. I love that, because I think as a society, women especially have this tendency to be small, like, string can not really shine their light. And the women that do shine their light are very masculine, because they're trying to compete in this really masculine world. So they're not being true to themselves. They're being someone else. They're being someone that they think society needs them to be in order to succeed.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
resonate with that so much when you say like that competition, right? That feeling like, well, I need to be the bitch,
Yeah.
to be seen. And I took on that archetype, so to speak, for a while, to be heard and to be seen.
Yeah.
But you're right, like I wasn't being authentic to
Yeah.
myself, and I just ended up making myself more sick and tired and exhausted,
Yeah.
because you're being someone you're not. That's, of course,
Yeah.
that's going to be
Yeah.
exhausting.
Well, when your star chart and everything about you says you're a loving being and you're being this bitch, it doesn't quite align.
No, no. And I mean, of course, I didn't have any awareness at the time. So, of course, no awareness, no alignment. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I want to ask you a question. I don't, if you're not comfortable talking about it, totally cool. But in terms of your child, like your sexual abuse in childhood and then adolescence, what I guess, how did you overcome that? Because it's a big thing. I've experienced similar things in childhood. So it took a long time before I healed. You went to alcohol. I went to forgetting the memory until I got into my 30s and then remembered it and starting to work on it. So if you're comfortable, are you able to share, what were some of the things that really helped you get through it and work through the process? Because it is a big thing, and it carries on to adulthood, how you carry yourself, how you act, how you behave, everything.
Yes, I have no problem sharing. I mean, it's important to talk about. I am all about the taboo
Yeah,
topics. You know, I don't think
yeah,
they should be taboo.
yeah,
But it's similar to you in a way. So I didn't remember my childhood experience, my childhood abuse until I was raped at 16.
yeah,
So it all came back from that incident, and that was I opened up to a few people about it, and I opened up to my sister, and it ended up getting back to my parents. So
mm,
I did go to counseling when I was 16 for 2 years. But I wasn't ready, and I still thought it was my fault. I really thought that I asked for it, and that, the reason I was being bullied at school was because I was a slut. And it was really bad what had happened. The people I went to school with knew and used it against me. Um, so I held on to that, and I really self sabotaged with men because I just thought, well, fuck that, really. I'm just going to have sex with people.
yeah,
Like, I'm not going to get attached. Like, what's the point of having feelings because I loved this person and that's what they did to me?
yeah,
And then it's my fault. I
yeah,
asked for it. So I
yeah,
thought if I was this vixen, this like promiscuous man eater, that I
yeah,
was in control,
yeah,
right? And so when I would say it was when I was in my past relationship, even though, what there were toxic elements, he was really supportive in helping me heal through that.
mm,
Um, so I started exploring it through spirituality. And actually, that's when I got into chakra work, because I realized my sacral plexus chakra was just like
completely, yeah.
so out of balance. It was like, this is going to take 10 years to get this back to where it should be.
Yeah,
And so I started to do that, and I started to really do the work on my own. And then, of course, like I shared, broke up with my ex, things took a turn for the worse. And then COVID, I think for everyone has been an eye-opening experience, to say the least. But
yeah,
um, really writing my book was when I realized that I hadn't healed most of this abuse, this trauma,
yeah,
and that I had disassociated, because I'm a huge disassociator. That's something I'm still actively working on. And I'm very, very like,
yeah,
I'll admit it, it's fine.
yeah,
It happens. But it's been a coping mechanism since I was 2,
yeah,
right? Like, so recognizing that, and then saying to myself, I need to go back to therapy, and I want to.
yeah,
So I took the time to actually, this is the funny thing. I found my therapist's business card in my wallet, and I had no idea how it got there. I was looking for, it was the universe. It was just
yeah,
like a trauma healer, a trauma therapist, and she specializes in EMDR. So a lot to do with tapping
yeah,
and, body regulation. And I'm trained in somatic
yeah,
resourcing and somatic healing. So I was like, this is perfect. And I've been with her now since August, and I am forever grateful. I acknowledged her in my book. She is so incredible. Um, I I have healed through at least what I went through with my ex in, you know, um, high school.
yeah,
And I've been actively talking about that for years, because unfortunately, after I was raped, a bunch of my friends were. And I think it's
wow,
more people, we don't realize how common it is
yes,
for women. I think it's 1 in 3 women has been sexually assaulted. And so because I opened up about it, my friends felt safe to come to me when it happened to them.
mm,
And so when I started working as an addictions counselor, they were looking for someone to run family violence. It was a seminar on family violence. And I
yeah,
said, please, can I?
yeah,
Because some of these women had never talked about these experiences, and
yeah,
it became so normal. So for me, part of the healing was talking about it and educating others that it's okay to cry and to feel and to be confused and ask for help.
yeah,
Because as soon as I asked for that help, it was just like every part of the universe was there to support me, and my spiritual practices grew, and my mental health became better, and I became more motivated physically, right?
yeah,
Because I finally was okay, I'm here. I'm actively here to heal these trauma wounds that have become so suffocating on me that I've been disassociating most of my days without even realizing. And so that was huge. And again, the thing that happened to me when I was 2, I had disassociated, blocked it out, whatever you want to say, for so long that I didn't even remember who it was.
Yeah.
And then in therapy, it came out. And actually, I'm not even upset with the person, because I know that I'm working to heal it.
Yeah.
And I'm angry that it happened.
Yeah.
Of course, you have to be angry.
Yeah.
Anger is such a vital emotion to our healing. And again, recognizing that I can feel angry about the things that have happened to me has been another big, big part of processing and healing this. Because I don't think as women we give ourselves permission to be angry, and the feminine for some reason can't be angry. Right? It's like only a masculine thing. And it's like, why are we separating these two?
Yeah.
When together they can create a lot of magic, right? Because anger is different than rage.
Yeah.
Anger can be used for good.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for sharing your story and being vulnerable, because I know it's not easy to share. Because I remember when I shared it for the first time on a podcast, I was like, "Oh, I didn't know I was going to share this, but here you go. That's what happened." And anyone that's listening who has had, sexual abuse in childhood, or even sexual abuse as they were older, teenagers, adults, it's not your fault. Just know that it's not your fault. It's okay to feel the guilt, the shame, but it's not your fault. And please do go see someone and heal that trauma, because it really does change your life completely and change your self-worth and everything around you once you start that healing process. So thank you so much for sharing that. It's so beautiful. So Hannah, I want to ask you, because you've gone through so much, what were some of the tools or teachers that were really helpful in your healing process? I know you, at the moment, you're seeing your trauma specialist, but what else as you were going through the motions? I mean, even from moving back home and losing everything to now starting again, and well, not starting again, but, really stepping into your power, into your feminine power. What were the tools that really helped you move in that direction and help with your healing?
Oh my goodness. Okay. I'm like, are we ready? There's going to be so many. Well, I am a dancer. I've been a dancer since I was pretty young, and dance was my outlet. So even when I was using as a teenager, like dance was the place I felt safe. Dance is what got me into yoga. I'm not a naturally flexible person, which I know people would look at some pictures and be like, what? But it's taken years. But I started yoga because I wasn't flexible in dance and I felt really self-conscious. So that dance got me into yoga.
Yeah.
And then as the years went on, because of my endometriosis, I didn't get a period for 8 years. I was on birth control for 11 years, the birth control pill. And when I wasn't getting a period, I really felt like I lost all touch with my femininity. I was like, well, what makes me a woman? Like there was so much that I didn't understand about my body. So I started practicing following the lunar cycle and really linking up with the moon, because the moon goes through similar phases as, our women's bodies through our menstrual cycles. And so it was this beautiful practice of understanding, okay, when the moon is full, this is what works for me. This is what this means to me. And the new moons and the intention settings and how I can honor my feminine through that. And so again, that was dance and that was yoga and art, painting. That's really why I started teaching art, and I've taught art to many different kids and adults with disabilities and women suffering from addiction and mental health. And you just see the impact art has on someone's life, because you don't need to be an artist to paint or sculpt or draw. You just need paper and paint or a pen, right? Like, and allow your imagination to flow. But also journaling and meditating and chakra healing has been absolutely phenomenal for myself, at least. Writing, I write a lot of poetry and I write raps. I've never recorded them. Please don't ask me to rap. But you're like, oh, Hannah, just wait. That's how we're ending today's podcast. But just tapping into things that also just bring me pure joy. Because for the longest time, I just wasn't happy. Like happiness was a foreign emotion. And so coming back to the things that I guess you could say appease my inner child, like what made me happy when I was little. And that was dancing and drawing and painting and moving my body. And, I wrote a lot of stories as a kid. So no wonder I wrote a book and just really honoring all of those, but also asking for help. And not just with a therapist or a coach. And don't get me wrong, I have a therapist and I have 3 coaches and I work with so many different like amazing women who help me every day. But asking for help from, during COVID, like right now, because I have, quite a few illnesses and I'm immunocompromised, I can't even get my own groceries. And it's hard, and that was one of the biggest things for me was like, my friends, hey, do you want me to pick up some groceries for you? Yes. And like we kind of talked about, as women, we take it on it all, and we are expected to take on it all and do it all ourselves and never ask for help and never be weak or show that we're struggling. And I really didn't want to be a burden to anyone, especially if I'm sick, right? And as soon as I threw that limiting belief out the door, it was like, someone, what can I get you? Can you just get me some flowers? Sure, I'll bring you fresh flowers, because that brings me joy. And it brings that person joy to know that they're helping me.
Yeah.
Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes total sense. And it is so true. I mean, obviously the yoga, the meditation, the journaling, doing all the creative things that make you feel joy are important, but asking for help for women, as you're saying, is such a big thing. It's like this big mountain that we have to climb, to conquer, to ask for help, because it's this sign of weakness. As you were saying, we have to do it all, we have to be it all, we have to just be this superwoman, but we don't have to. Why do we have to? There are no have tos, there are no shoulds. Yeah.
No, exactly. I just love that you're just like, why? And that's something I've been asking myself a little bit more as with moving from Winnipeg to Edmonton during a pandemic. When I start having doubts, right? Well, why is this a doubt? And it really, normally when I break it down, it's nothing crazy. It's nothing serious. It's nothing that I can't handle. And one more thing, or a couple more things that I want to add there is, for me, a big thing is just grounding. And so again, chakra work and really working on my root chakra, but there's so many ways we can ground ourselves and soothe ourselves. Like even just giving ourselves a hug is so easy. But again, we as women, we make things a little bit too hard on ourselves. Right? Or anyone. I shouldn't just say women. Like there's, men out there or whatever you identify as, is that we make it so hard. We think healing has to be so hard. And it is. It's not easy, but healing yourself doesn't have to be hard.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for that. And Hannah, I want to ask you, I love reading. So are there any particular books that were really helpful with your healing process, or any books that have really impacted your life?
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love reading too. I was like, I could list you.
Well, you wrote a book, so.
Well, my own. But no, the Anatomy of the Spirit by Carolyn Myss was a huge eye opener for me, specifically when it came to the chakra system relating to other religions and how there are Christianity and the 7 sacraments and Judaism and the Kabbalah. There's all of these interconnections. And for me, that just reminded me of this like bigger collective of healing on a whole level,
Yeah.
on a conscious global level. And then when the body says no, by Gabor Mate, and the hidden cost of stress is the subtitle. And I read it and was like, oh my goodness, like I really am glad I read this at 27 because I have time to make these changes. But both of these books were just talking a lot about energy and stress and how our bodies are taking on so much more than just the physical aspects and the mental and the emotional, that we are picking up on other energies every single day. And if we don't do the work to separate what is ours and what isn't,
Yeah.
we will be consumed.
Yeah.
And having chronic conditions and having liver disease where they really don't know why and what's going on, part of me is like, this is an energy thing,
Yeah.
and I've struggled with anger, and anger lives in the liver. So there's so many things where you start to learn and open your mind to, okay, there are so many different avenues to heal. And so those two books opened up so many doors for me that wouldn't have been opened if I didn't open those books.
Yeah. I love it. And I'll be adding those two to my list because I have not heard of those two books before. So thank you. And I just love the first one that you're mentioning, where the interconnection between the chakra system and all the different type of religions, knowing that we are actually all connected. And even though people have this thing, oh, you're this religion, you're that religion, you're this race, so we're not. It's connected. It's all connected. We're just one big pot is connected. And yes, definitely the energies, especially in this year, has been massive, where sometimes I wake up, I'm like, okay, I don't know, is that my energy or am I just picking up on the collective energy? So yeah, really important to recognize what is not yours and yeah, let that go.
Yeah. And I think for listeners too, some maybe people are thinking like, well, what the heck? I don't even know how to feel that or let that go, right? Because I think I know when I started learning somatic healing and intuitive connection and listening to my body, because I had disassociated from my body for so long, someone would say, what does love feel like in your body? And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, like a heart in my chest, like just so literal. And then now I could tell you it feels like, a billion twinkly lights shining through and sunshine and like, just, and you feel that, right?
Yeah.
But for me, it took, and yoga was the biggest way for me to reconnect and meditating, because you are getting that chance to slow down and listen to your body.
Yeah.
Even if you're moving between postures, right? You're learning what you can and can't handle. And then can you make it through that uncomfortable posture on your mat? Yes. Can you make it through an uncomfortable situation in your life? Yes. All we have to do is breathe.
Yeah.
And so that's been huge, is coming back to my breath. So there's my like long tangent point coming back to where I was trying to go. I'm like, come on, Hannah, you're getting there. But it's, if you are struggling with that, try just focusing on conscious breathing, tuning into your breath throughout the day. And then the subtle calls will just continue to come up.
Yeah, love that. Thank you. And I just love your description of what love is. It's just so beautiful.
Thank you.
So Hannah, I want to ask you right now, I mean, having gone through everything that you've gone through, what is your personal mission right now?
Oh, definitely to help, and not even help, inspire as many women and individuals to become active participants in their healing journeys. And I say active because we go through life being so passive. It's easy, right? And having been gaslighted in the medical community for pretty much my whole life, having a women's reproductive condition. It's like we go to the doctor, I have a painful period, like I have cramps. They're just bad cramps. It's just how periods are.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. And then, all the gaslighting continues to happen, and it does something to you. Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm losing my train of thought now. But sorry, what was the question? Let's bring me back so I don't go
Your
on.
personal mission.
Right, my personal mission. Sure. I'm like, oh my gosh, I know my own dharmic purpose. What's going on here? But yeah, because again, like I was just so passive. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
That I was just so passive for so long, and it got me nowhere.
Yeah.
Nowhere, like I just was here on the healing, and I love to believe healing is like a circle, right? I know oftentimes we hear healing, we know it's not linear, and we think of it like these ups and downs.
Yeah.
And I struggle with that, because when I would be up, I'd be constantly waiting for that next down, And so when I switched the narrative, and I like sharing this, is thinking of it as a circle. It's this idea that it's forever going, right? The circle doesn't end. And within the circle, I like to say our seasons, of healing, right? And we're going to have those winters where it's dark and it's cold and it's hard, and we're trudging through the snow, and we're like, where's the spring?
Yeah.
And then it comes, and it's new and it's fresh, and you reap, you bask in your summer, and you reap the benefits of your fall, and then your winter comes again, because it's inevitable.
Yeah.
But this time you've gone through the circle however many times to pick up more support and more modalities to help you heal, and guide you and assist you. So if I can help people become active participants and see healing as a circle, then I feel really good.
Yeah. And I love that. I just love your mission, and I love how you explain that it's a it's a circle and it's a season, because it's the ebbs and flows of life, so I just really love that, and thank you. And I'm just excited to see you change everyone and help them realize that they're in the seasons, and in the seasons, and how they can heal through those seasons and pick up everything, like pick up new modalities, as you're saying, to heal. Beautiful. Thank you. So, and I want to ask you, because I want you to share some more love and wisdom with us. What do you believe is the greatest lesson that you've learned in your life so far?
Well, I feel like there's been a few, but one of the biggest things that comes to me is that I'm already whole. That there's no reason to believe that wholeness doesn't already exist within me, and it doesn't already exist within every single one of us. We're not a half, we're not looking for another half to complete us, and we're not continuing on this journey to pick up other pieces. We continue to become more whole and better versions of ourselves. But when I was able to recognize that, okay, I'm whole as I am, I'm going to continue to grow, and I'm going to continue to learn, and then I'll become a whole version there, a whole new version. But it was that because I had thought that I wasn't worthy, when you don't feel whole, when you don't trust yourself, when you don't feel comfortable in your own skin, you don't think you're worthy of anything. Of the life that you truly are. So that was a big lesson for me, to realize that I'm whole and that I'm worthy. Yeah.
That's a beautiful lesson. And now that you've learned that lesson, and all the lessons that you've learned along the way, if you could time travel to a younger version of yourself, what advice would you give yourself?
Oh, I always say that I would tell my younger self, first of all, that she's safe, that you are safe, and that no matter what comes your way, don't let it ruin or dim your resilient spirit. Because if there's anything I know about myself and the soul that I have, is that I am resilient as hell, and I will keep coming back. There's no stopping me. That the resiliency has it's a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. And I just want to ask you, I mean, you were talking about the seasons of life. So, for those listeners who are currently in their winter, where they're feeling that they're not getting anywhere, they just feel stuck, they just don't even know what the next step is, or they know their next step, but they just can't seem to make themselves take that step, and they've got these limiting beliefs or there's fear, what advice would you have for them to help them take that first step or just get rid of those limiting beliefs and fear?
Oh, well, I mean, first of all, I just want to say keep going. Like, no matter what it is, even if it's moving from your bed to your couch, like that's progress,
Yeah.
you know? Maybe it's writing down a list of the things that you are working on accomplishing and then picking one, just one, the one that calls out to you and is the most important, and break that down, make it specific and measurable and achievable and realistic, and in a timeline, the SMART goals, because
Yeah.
I think SMART goals are really how we take those next steps and to recognize that we are worth it. Because my other piece of advice would be is to ask for help, but because that is so foreign to a lot of us and we don't even believe we deserve that help,
Yeah.
the first step for me was always figuring out, okay, how can I make this attainable for me? And usually when I broke it down, I wasn't doing it on my own,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so understanding that asking for help again could be going to your sibling and having a good cry on their shoulder, or hiring a coach,
Yeah.
right? And knowing that you're investing in yourself,
Yeah.
that it's an investment in your healing journey.
Yeah. I love that. And so many people have this limiting belief about investing in themselves, but that is the best investment that you can make. And I'm not saying that because you're a coach and I'm a coach, but it is so true. Because before I became a coach and I hired my first coach, I was scared as hell. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm paying this much for a coach.
Right?
And then it was the best thing that happened because my life just changed, my thinking changed, my being changed. So it is just so important to ask, whether maybe it is just your sibling, you don't need to hire a coach, but if you are wanting really to take that next step, it's just so important. And I love your SMART goals, which I love doing as well, but also not being too attached to the timeline, because sometimes then we start pushing ourselves and
Yes, it's so true. And it's like, and I mean, I'm so glad that you brought that up because I'm a big believer in divine timing. And so I always struggle with that last one, the
yeah,
T on the
yeah.
SMART. I'm like, I'm just going to leave this up to the universe because you know better than I do
Yeah,
on some of this, right? But I think if it's even, like you want to apply for a new job because you're not happy with your current job, and so many people aren't happy with their current jobs, but they're comfortable in taking that next step to even apply is
yeah,
scary, right? But put that goal down for like 1 or 2. I don't even know, whatever makes sense for you, because once we do it, we realize, oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to
yeah,
be. That wasn't as scary as I had made it out to be in my head. So
yeah. It's so true. Once you start, it's like, oh, geez. I've been fearing or being scared of this is like nothing, but it is.
exactly.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing your tips. And Hannah, I want to take a little bit of turn because on my journey, my big thing, I mean, yours as well, is about self love, self worth, and just giving yourself all the love that you can give. So, as an awakened feminine, what are your top 3 go to activities to make sure you give yourself the self love that you deserve?
Oh, rest,
Hmm.
rest, rest, rest. I struggle with that, and especially being chronically ill. I need to rest, and we all do. Slowing down, right?
Yeah.
Yoga, 100%. If I'm feeling down, a heart opening practice will get me back to where I need to be.
Yeah.
And then, like I mentioned at the beginning, honoring where I'm at in each moment. And if that means that I need to just sit there and cry,
Yeah.
Or scream into a pillow
Yeah.
or whatever that is, put on a song and just dance around and honor that femininity, whatever it is. That's so big for me, because for so long I pushed away everything like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. And yeah, I just love that. The rest thing, definitely, because I'm also the same, very resting is still quite foreign. It's something I'm working on. My goal this week is to rest, actually.
Yeah, right?
So
I
it's
know,
just so foreign a concept that, I'm allowed to rest. What do you mean? I've got all
right?
this stuff to do, but you can. It's okay. You
Yeah.
don't have to do it all right now. Yeah, and yoga, I love yoga as well, so I love that. So thank you for sharing your tips. And Hannah, before we wrap up, I'd really love to know what is setting your soul on fire right now.
Oh, honestly, just being here in Edmonton and being with the love of my life. We've been waiting a long time to be together and start our this chapter together. So that is in this moment, that is what is setting my soul on fire. But the work that I do, the
Yeah,
work I do with the women, like similar to you, rest is so hard because I'm sure you get it. I just love what I do. I just love what I do. And
yeah,
so yeah, rest is a job in of itself. We can
yeah,
just say that. But those are
yeah,
the two things.
yeah. Beautiful. Thank you. Sorry, I just got distracted because I can hear my daughters like talking at but yeah, beautiful. And
That's okay.
I just love that, you found the love of your life after going through everything that you've gone through, and now you're in this new chapter, and everything that you're doing for women, for humanity, is so beautiful. So I'm just really excited to see how it all unfolds for you, and yeah, see all the great work that you're doing. So thank you so much. So Hannah, thank you once again for just sharing your love and wisdom with us today. If people want to find out more about you and how they can work with you, where should they go?
Of course. You can head to my website, which is www.healingwithhannah.ca. No spaces or anything there. And that has all my information. So you can find me on Instagram, on Facebook, book a discovery call, find out about my coaching. And then, of course, my book,
Yes.
Entering the Divine One Breath at a Time, is on Amazon. And it is an exploration of healing through spirituality and sobriety. So, really, how I got to where I am right now after I got sober, and discussing many of the lessons I learned along the way. So those are where you can find me. And of course, I'm on Instagram. You can find me at healing.with.hannah, and send me a DM. I'm always open for chats, or if you have questions. As you can probably tell, I'm an open book,
Yeah.
and I love being that way. I think it's important because you and I are voices for others right now who
Yeah.
don't feel ready to speak up.
Yeah. Beautiful. I'll have all your details and any recommended resource in the show notes, and definitely the link to your book in the show notes, so people can reach out to you, they can buy your book, whatever they want to, connect,
Oh,
however they want to connect with you. So thank you once again.
thank you
Beautiful.
so much.
And until next time, I love you, I believe in you, and you're worth taking that first step to the life of your dreams.